every rock star that's truly adored, there are others hated by the world. And that's especially true for one of the most deplorable people in rock history, Axl Rose.
Axl!
Guns N' Roses is generally loved, but
Welcome
Axl,
to the
he's
jungle.
got an abnormally long list of controversies.
Yeah,
Like the
I don't really
time
know
he
much
incited
about
an actual
things he's
riot.
done. Chat, so I want to watch this. You on some Travis Scott shit? Axl.
What might look like just an out-of-control crowd was the result of a show that started 2 hours late. Not only this, but mid-set, Axl spots a fan taking pictures and literally jumps off stage to attack him. When security doesn't kick the guy out, Axl then does this.
Thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home.
This led to immediate chaos. Over 65 people injured, alongside hundreds of
damn.
thousands worth of damages to the city. But causing an uproar is only the start, because throughout his entire career,
What a
Axl
goat.
non-stop with celebrities. In 1986, he hit a woman with a mic stand who just so happened to be the girlfriend of Bob Forrest from Thelonious Monster. When confronted, Axl attacked Bob and even ripped some of his hair out. Then in 1989, David Bowie allegedly hit on Axl's girlfriend during a shoot, so Axl responded by punching him and threatening to take his life. Perhaps the most infamous feud though was with Kurt Cobain. Axl was a big fan of Nirvana and at one point wanted them to open up for Guns N' Roses. However, things took a turn when Kurt said this to Rolling Stone: "We're not your typical Guns N' Roses type of band that has absolutely nothing to say." And sure, this was a jab, but it definitely didn't warrant Axl's insane response.
Damn.
Alternative, the only thing that means to me is someone like Kurt Cobain in Nirvana, who is basically just a f***ing junkie with a junkie wife. And if the baby's born deformed, I think they both ought to go to prison. Yeah, pretty horrible behavior.
That's fucked up.
The opposite is true for rock legend Kurt Cobain. As the
Shout out
frontman
to
in
Goat.
Nirvana, Kurt was the example of integrity in a scene full of asshole behavior. One of his most unforgettable moments was caught live when he noticed a woman being groped in the crowd. He stops the show, calls the guy out, and the cherry on top is the rest of the band joining in. And this wasn't a one-off thing. His diary revealed 6 of his own personal commandments, from not being sexist or racist to loving your neighbors and children. Kurt really believed in a show's being a safe space for everyone. All this
Maybe that
to
real quick.
loving
Love yourself more. The community construct the
your neighbors and children.
Yes.
Kurt really believed in a show's being a safe space for everyone. Although, Kurt had a rebellious side too. During Nirvana's MTV performance in '92, he was explicitly told not to play the song with me. So Kurt of course trolled him with a few bars anyway. Another great example is when they went on Top of the Pops in '91 and were asked to use a backing track. After some back and forth, they did agree, but only if Kurt's vocals could still be live. I love how they're zooming in on the guitar that's clearly not playing anything. Kurt wasn't just a rock star, he was a revolutionary voice that still resonates today. And that's a stark contrast to someone we all loved for years, only to find out he's a horrible human being. Now before we dive into the serious stuff, Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers once destroyed an entire band's career over a petty feud. See, back in the early 90s, Faith No More released a music video where their lead singer Mike Patton leaned into the funk genre. Patton was an experimental artist who always messed around with other genres, and it's something he's been praised for his entire career. Although, Kiedis didn't see it this way. He called him out for copying his style, threatened him in a later interview, and even went as far as pressuring organizers to have Patton's band drop from festivals. At the time, Faith No More was on a hiatus, and this was massively affecting Patton's main project, Mr. Bungle. So, the group decided to clap back. During a Halloween show, they dressed up as the Red Hot Chili Peppers and did a legendary set mocking them. While this had some funny moments, it did go a bit far when they made fun of the Peppers' old guitarist who passed away from drug addiction. Patton may have pushed the line, but he was previously threatened while having his shows dropped constantly. And Anthony did not let up. He successfully got Mr. Bungle dropped from a European tour, Big Day Out in Australia, alongside postponing their album. Trevor Dunn, the bassist for Bungle, had this to say: "Everything you've heard about the Peppers screwing us over is true. I'm not sure why they did it other than a non-singer's jealousy. Ultimately, they screwed me out of a lot of money, for which I will forever harbor anger." Yeah, kinda harsh for a bad joke, but that's nothing compared to the most horrible thing Kiedis has done, which comes from his own autobiography. He recalls an encounter with a 14-year-old that came backstage after a show. He admits to sleeping with her and then taking her on a road trip to Baton Rouge the next day. It's here where the girl reveals she's the daughter of the chief of police, is currently missing, and is only 14 years old. In Anthony's own words, here's what happens next. "I wasn't scared. I knew that if I told the chief of police she was in love with me, he wasn't going to have me shot. But I did want to get her home, so we had sex one more time, and she gave me an interesting compliment I'll never forget. She said, "When you make love to me, it's like you're a professional." As a lifetime fan, this was really hard to read. And since the release of his book, even more has come to light about the band. In 1990, Flea and Chad Smith assaulted a girl while filming a spring break segment for MTV. They pulled down her pants, shoved her to the ground, while Flea allegedly demanded oral acts from her. Both were arrested and charged with battery, while Flea was also charged with solicitation to commit an unnatural act. Kiedis's book is full of times they took advantage of young girls, all in the name of rock music, and it's honestly a shame to read. But Pearl Jam is the opposite of shameful, with a nearly perfect 30-plus year track record.
Let's go.
His fans like
Let's go,
family,
PJ. Let's go,
perform,
PJ.
making time for him in public, and one time he even left the stage mid-set just to give a fan a hug for saying their song saved his life. And Eddie isn't just known for being kind, he's also a badass activist. Back in '92 during MTV Unplugged, he wrote this on his arm mid-performance. Although they're probably most loved for their music, with even their biggest singles bringing awareness to social issues. Jeremy tells the story of a troubled kid and sheds light on mental health and school violence in America, while Even Flow is a nod to the homeless crisis. In fact, Pearl Jam cares so much about this issue that they did a series of home shows in Seattle that raised over $11 million to fight homelessness. But by far, one of the most badass things the band has done is directly taken on Ticketmaster. In 1994, Pearl Jam filed a complaint with the Justice Department and gave a 3-hour testimony for what they saw as a monopoly on ticket prices and fees. They tried to make touring more fair 30 years ago, long before most artists even thought about speaking up. And just like Kurt, Eddie keeps his shows safe. If he sees someone in the crowd in trouble, he'll stop the show in an instant.
Stop. Hey, mister. Hey, get your finger out of that woman's face. Clear out, mister.
Now, we've seen rock stars do some pretty messed up stuff, but absolutely nothing could prepare you for who's next. Ian Watkins was the frontman for Lost Prophets, a band with a massive fan base.
Okay, what did he do?
He was hiding things darker than anyone could imagine. And warning, the content here gets disturbing. This all started in 2008 when he was first accused of inappropriate actions involving children. Nothing came of it, but a year later his ex-girlfriend Joanne noticed graphic material displayed in his dressing room. So she went to the police about this, along with other horrible things Watkins had told her, but again they shrugged it off.
Starts off with him saying to me about all these 14-year-old fans that he'd abused and took the virginity of. And he'd also been saying that he wanted to get me pregnant. He wanted to get me pregnant just so that he could abuse the baby.
Between 2008 and 2012, 6 separate complaints were filed against Ian. One from the parents of an abused child, and still somehow the authorities never investigated. It wasn't until 2012 when he was picked up for a small charge that police would find a disturbing photo of someone underage in his wallet. He pleaded not guilty in court, but this finally put him on the authorities' radar. Months later, Watkins was arrested again, but this time they had a search warrant, and what they found was truly horrifying. He was charged with 13 child offenses, including assault, alongside 27 terabytes of extremely graphic and illegal content. Perhaps the biggest bombshell, 2 women were also charged who had willingly offered their kids to Watkins. He's now serving a life sentence, with the judge describing his actions as new depths of depravity, and the senior officer saying he has shown no empathy or remorse. He's
Are they charging the mothers too?
Offender I've ever seen. Yeah, some insanely sick shit. But we gotta end things on a lighter note with an absolute rock legend that brightens anyone's spirit.
The one, the only, Ozzy Osbourne!
Thank you. Fucking love you guys.
Ozzy's known for trashing hotel rooms, biting the heads off of bats, and a drug history that makes him a genetic anomaly. He's had a 50-plus year career full of legendary moments that have only solidified his status as a rock god. But his story's not all headlines, though. Ozzy grew up poor, dealt with dyslexia, and at 11 suffered inappropriate abuse from school bullies. Music became his escape, and it was actually the Beatles that led him to rock.
And then one day I was walking down this road and I heard the Beatles for the first time, and it was like, wow. I remember singing, that's it, that's what I want to do.
Since then, he sold over 100 million records, and as the frontman of Black Sabbath, helped bring rock mainstream. He created Ozfest to support up-and-coming bands in a dying genre, and did a reality show that gave a glimpse into his actual life, which made people just love him more.
What the fuck am I doing? I'm stuck on the weather channel.
Without Ozzy, rock wouldn't be the same. The guy's your favorite rock star's favorite rock star.